that I bring from the United States is the Gandhi Legacy Tour. And what we are trying to do is to walk in the footsteps of Gandhi and see what he went through and why he went through all this pain and agony and became what he did, and left us a message that we should be practicing and should try to imbibe. So I'd like to welcome all my friends from America who have come to my country of my birth, and I hope that they are enjoying the trip as much as I am. I hope that we will be able to come here again next year at the same time and participate in the function here, because this is one of the highlights of the tour. I'm very pleased to hear the history of my grandfather being narrated here. But the thing that really touches me most about my grandfather is the statement that he made just a month or so before his assassination, when a journalist asked him, "What do you think is going to happen after your passing to your philosophy?" And he made a very prophetic remark when he said, "The people will follow me in life, worship me in death, but not make my cause their cause." And that, unfortunately, is the tragedy, not just with my grandfather, but with all the great people. We elevate them to sainthood, we worship them after they have gone, but we will not make their cause our cause. And their cause was to ensure that we bring peace in this world, that we all live in harmony and oneness, not just the majority of the people, but all the people of the world can benefit and live happily together. Because the 7 billion people of the world are one human family, and all creation of God on earth is part of this human family. And if we are going to create an atmosphere where people exploit each other, where we exploit nature and exploit all of creation just for the benefit of the majority of the people, and yet live with thousands and millions of people who starve to death and we do very little about it. That is what my grandfather, President Mandela, Chief Albert Luthuli, and all the great people of the world have been trying to teach us, that we have to be more conscious of the world. We have to recognize the fact that no part of the world, whether it's the United States or the Republic of South Africa or Europe, no part of the world is going to live in security and stability if the rest of the world is going down the drain. The security and stability of any nation and any part of the world depends on the security and stability of the whole world. And what we need to do today is to ensure that we create that security and stability all over the world so that all of us can live in that peace and harmony. My grandfather did live a very complex life. He left us a philosophy that is really not as complex as we make it out to be. It's a very simple philosophy. It's a philosophy that is based on love, understanding, compassion, respect for everything. There's nothing complex about this. But we don't want to use that because that appears to be weakness. We want to create a culture of violence. And that culture of violence is the result of a materialistic lifestyle that we have chosen all over the world. Materialism breeds immorality. Materialism breeds greed and exploitation. And we see this happening more and more everywhere in the world. We are all thinking about ourselves, thinking about how we are going to get the biggest share of the pie, how we can exploit the resources of the world so that our country can become the richest country in the world and we can build weapons of mass destruction. We spend more money in building weapons of mass destruction than in helping people and ensuring that they have a better lifestyle. We have everything upside down. The grandfather's philosophy, the two main things in his philosophy, the simplest and the most profound lessons in his philosophy are things that we never talk about. The first one is understanding anger and being able to use that anger intelligently. We have never bothered to learn about this, and we have never bothered to teach it. And the result is that we all abuse our anger and cause violence and death and destruction all over the world. Experts today say that more than 85% of the violence that we experience in our own lives, as well as in the lives of our nation, is generated by anger. If we learn that anger is not something that we need to suppress, it is not something that we need to be ashamed of, but it is something that we need to learn to use intelligently so that we can use that energy intelligently and effectively to bring about a better society. My grandfather, Dr. Mandela, and all of these great people did just that. They were not born great, they became great because they made that commitment that they were going to raise themselves up and leave a mark on society. Not for selfish reasons. They didn't do all of the things that they did so that we can build statues and spend billions of dollars in commemorating their image. They did this to teach us that humility is the way of good leadership. We have to be humble. We have to recognize the needs of people and make sacrifices so that everybody can live a better lifestyle. So the first thing that grandfather wanted all of us to learn is to understand that anger and being able to channel that energy constructively. The second lesson that he tried to teach us is about understanding violence itself. Today when we speak about violence, we only speak about wars and the physical fights and the murders and killings and beatings and rapes and all of these physical attributes of violence that we experience and see in our lives every day. But there is another side to violence that we ignore, and that is the passive violence. The way we look down on people, the way we treat people, the way we discriminate against people, the way we exploit people, the way the hundreds of things that we do to people all the time in our lives, to one another, that destroys the relationships between us. And it is that passive violence that fuels the fire of physical violence. So unless we recognize that passive violence and do something to change that passive violence, we will never be able to create peace in the world. Because what we are doing is, while we are fighting for peace on one side, we are fueling the fire with fuel on the other side. And that fire never goes out. So we have to recognize that all of us, every one of us, commits violence in some form or the other, all the time, every day. Whether it's physical violence or passive violence. And it's mostly passive violence that we are all committing all the time, every day of our lives. And unless we recognize that, and unless we do something to change that and transform that, we will never be able to change this world. And that is why he made that profound statement that we must become the change we wish to see in the world. If we don't change our attitudes and our behavior and our relationships, and if we don't begin to recognize all of humanity as part of the human family, we are never going to be able to create peace. We are never going to be able to fulfill the dream that all these great people lived for and died for. We need to do something urgently. We need to wake up to this need. Otherwise, this world is going to go down the drain, and future generations who may survive the Holocaust will wonder, what did we do when we had the opportunity to make a change? Why didn't we make that change? So let us decide today that we are going to leave a more encouraging, a more effective future for future generations, and create a foundation of society that they will be proud of and they will be able to build upon. It is our responsibility, and we have to shoulder that responsibility today. I want to apologize again to all of you that we have to rush off now because we still have to drive all the way to Johannesburg. I have been very happy to participate in this function. I hope I'll be able to come back next year, but maybe only if you allow me to speak first. We have a long drive, and the later we stay here, the longer it's going to take us to reach Johannesburg. And so, with apologies to the speakers and especially to the Honorable Consul General, we won't be able to stay here longer to listen to all the profound words, but I hope you will understand and forgive us. Thank you very much.